Yeah, so my first symptoms happened my freshman year of high school. I was 14 in the middle of puberty, starting puberty. Like there were a lot of changes that caused us to kind of miss some of my initial symptoms to begin with. So my initial symptoms were exhaustion beyond belief, and then depression and anxiety. And so my exhaustion we thought was mono. We just thought that I think I got tested for mono like 10 different times. And then my depression and anxiety, the way that it manifested itself was the way that I described it is like I didn't really have control over all of my my thoughts and like what I said, so like my words as much. So I was much more irrational than I used to be. I remember driving home from a basketball practice with my dad after just getting an argument with him, and then maybe like 5 minutes later, like still remember it so vividly. I was like, Dad, I don't know what's going on. Like I don't know why I just reacted that way. Like I don't have control over everything that I do and everything that I say. And I remember asking if I could go see a therapist because of that. I think I was a little too young, but then also in general, I was not like cognitively able to be in control of what I was doing. So my mom, she was like my lifesaver actually. She was the one that was researching everything, researching all my symptoms, bringing me to different doctors.
I brought her to the general practitioner that we had seen. In fact, I think we saw him 6 times in 3 years. And he, ran thyroid tests, and because she was so tired all the time, and he ran, interestingly and ironically enough, the Lyme test every single time, and it came back negative every single time. And that just, I was like, okay, well, she doesn't have Lyme, and her thyroid, and he, was slightly off, but he didn't think it required medication. It wasn't until the last time that he pulled me aside as Alexis walked ahead of me and whispered to me that I may want to think about bringing her to a psychiatrist, because he was basically implying that her symptoms were emotionally manifested.
My mom became typical like mama bear and got so mad and was just like, my daughter's not making this up. Like she's not sleeping for 19 hours and just because she wants to. So that kind of put my mom on like the track of looking up every single doctor that I could go to. I don't even know how many I went to or what kind of treatments I did. I remember one doctor I went to, I remember going to the appointment, meeting my mom there after work or after school, and then have her through the appointment. My head was like actually in her lap because I was so tired. Like it was an hour-long appointment and I could not keep my head up.
So I found a doctor who practices functional medicine, and brought Alexis to see her, not even thinking about Lyme disease.
So I remember it was like a 3-hour-long appointment, and it was 2.5 hours of her showing me with all of these tests that I had done prior. She was like, with this test, I think that I would say that you are experiencing XYZ. And like, she was literally like to the T telling me why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And I was like, this is the first time in 3-4 years that I felt this like validated by a doctor. And then at the end, she was like, oh, by the way, you have Lyme disease, and just like super offhandedly said it. And then the next like half hour was talking about how to treat it. So I have chronic Lyme disease, and it's chronic because it took so long to get it treated. So the longer that it takes to get treated, the longer it'll be to until you're like in remission, and the longer that it'll take for you to like basically like feel symptom free. It was like maybe my sophomore year of college, so like 6 years into being sick, and I was doing this one treatment. For whatever reason, it was probably one of the first treatments that I actually saw kind of immediately some symptoms like kind of going away. And it was the first time in 6 years that I realized that my concentration, my ability to speak, my mental state was not as good as I thought it was. So it was like, the way that I describe it is I essentially went from not even knowing I was missing it, and then having this treatment treat it so much that I noticed a significant increase in my ability to do work and to focus. And that caused me to then look back on those 6 years and be like, oh my gosh, like that was so bad. I don't really remember most of my sophomore year, which is it's a really terrifying thing to say. I don't really remember much of it because I was in a fight or flight mode. I was essentially, my body was under attack, and I was like, I just gotta go, I gotta move. I have to live up to a certain expectation of myself, and I have to keep on going. I remember having this moment where I snapped back in, and I literally, in that moment was like, wow, you have been disconnected for 2 weeks. Like, obviously I had been there, and everyone, like, I don't think any of my friends would have ever said that I wasn't a good friend, wasn't connected, wasn't always at things, wasn't doing stuff, but I mentally was not there. The emotional, is the hardest for me because it takes away who I am, or who I think that I am. It used to be so weird to walk around campus and just to be like, none of these people understand what is going on. Like, none of these people. That thought is what caused the amount of times that I called my parents upset, crying, took a semester off, just was so upset because I will never know what I would have done had I not been sick. But I honestly have found peace in that I really think that I did a lot of what I would have done.